The last budget, like we rightly noted, we were almost rushed. In fact, we were rushed into concluding that budget. And that is what we want to avoid happening again this year. And we can also say that the Parliament perhaps will no longer want to tolerate that situation where the budget, which is a very important, in fact the most important law that will be passed by this assembly, as it has to do with the Nigerian nation, will be brought, and within 2 or 3 weeks we are expected to conclude and pass that same budget, because we want to comply with what we have agreed, that there must be a certain period for budget to run, that is January to December. I would therefore call on this House to please support this motion, regardless of party line, regardless of leaning. This motion is in the interest of this country, and is in our collective interest that things should be done, and done properly.
Very much, my delectable speaker, my colleagues. My name is Clement Jimbo. I represent the very good people of Abak Etmekboika Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, colleagues, if you recall, Fiscal Responsibility Act 2007, Section 11, subsection 1B in particular, mandates the executive to make budgetary proposals to the National Assembly latest 4 months before the commencement of another budget cycle. Mr. Speaker, colleagues, it is on this note I seek the leave of the House to stand on Order 8 Rule 5 to take this motion as urgent national importance. I so move, Mr. Speaker. Thank you very much, my dear Speaker. Once again, I still remain Clement Jimbo, representing the very good people of Abak Etmekboika Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, the House notes it is a motion of urgent public importance on the need to urge the executive to comply with Section 11, subsection 1B of the Fiscal Responsibility Act 2007. The House notes that the Fiscal Responsibility Act 2007 provides for the prudent management of the nation's resources, ensures long-term microeconomic stability of the national economy, secures greater accountability and transparency in fiscal operations within a medium-term fiscal policy framework, and the establishment of the Fiscal Responsibility Commission to ensure the promotion and enforcement of the nation's economic objectives and for related matters. The House further notes that Section 11, subsection 1B, stipulates that the federal government must, not later than 4 months before the commencement of the next financial year, cause to be prepared and laid before the National Assembly and enter for the next 3 financial years. Worried that Section 88 and 89 of the 1999 Constitution, as well as Section 30, subsection 1, of Fiscal Responsibility Act, specifically Section 88(1) stipulates that, subject to other provisions of the 1999 Constitution, each House of the National Assembly shall have the power, by passing resolution, to direct or cause to be directed an investigation into any matter or thing with respect to which it has power to make laws, and into the conduct of affairs of any person, authority, ministry of government, department charged or intended to be charged with the duty or responsibility for executing, administrating laws enacted by the National Assembly, and for disbursing or administering monies appropriated or to be appropriated by the National Assembly. Further worried that the time the National Assembly requires to exercise its functions as enshrined in Section 88, subsection 2B, is technically being taken away by the non-compliance of Section 11B of Fiscal Responsibility Act by the executive. The House accordingly resolved and urged the executive to comply with section 11 subsection 1b and submit to the National Assembly 2025 budget proposal without further delays. 2, mandates committees on national planning and economic development, appropriation and finance to ensure compliance within 2 weeks. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
I represent the good people of Orionwa Federal Constituency of Edo State. Mr. Speaker, I'm a very proud Benin chief. Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the mover of this motion because we don't want anything that's going to impede on our job as legislators. Mr. Speaker, if we have it that 4 months as a time frame for this budget to be submitted, Mr. Speaker, I believe there was a reason for that. So if we are beginning to get the budget within a month and giving a time frame to go ahead and get this budget passed within a month, just like what happened last year, Mr. Speaker, is going to affect our oversight functions. Mr. Speaker, this is not what we want to encourage as a house, because anything that's going to affect our function as a legislator, Mr. Speaker, this is something we want to resist. Mr. Speaker, we have seen that this is one of the ways the MDAs are actually shortchanging this country by not allowing us do our job. If we need 4 months to go over the budget proposal, 4 months is 4 months, Mr. Speaker. We don't want them to drag us to a month or less than a month to get our job done. Mr. Speaker, again, I want to encourage this House to look at this properly so that we can discourage this to do a proper job for the country. Mr. Speaker, thank you very much for giving me the room to speak.
Thank you. Honorable Chinda. Sir.
Rise to support the mover of this motion and indeed commend him for the eagle eyes. Mr. Speaker, my dear colleagues, you will recall that one of the grounds upon which the present government prides itself is that the budgetary cycle has moved from what it used to be to January to December. That is within the year. No doubt this is a good policy because it will allow investors to plan properly, knowing the exact budget cycle under which they are planning. But then, having agreed to do that, they should also be vigilant. And what our colleague has done this morning is to wake the present government from their slumber. The last budget, like we rightly noted, we were almost rushed. In fact, we were rushed into concluding that budget. And that is what we want to avoid happening again this year. And we can also say that the Parliament perhaps will no longer want to tolerate that situation where the budget, which is a very important, in fact the most important law that will be passed by this assembly, as it has to do with the Nigerian nation, will be brought, and within 2 or 3 weeks we are expected to conclude and pass that same budget, because we want to comply with what we have agreed, that there must be a certain period for budget to run, that is January to December. I would therefore call on this House to please support this motion, regardless of party line, regardless of leaning. This motion is in the interest of this country, and is in our collective interest that things should be done and done properly. We are going into the end of the quarter of this year. We expect that by now the MTEF would have been with us, so that we can painstakingly study same and then cross the T's and dot the I's where necessary. This motion is a clarion call. It's a wake-up call. It is one that we should all support, and I will urge this House to support this motion strongly and fully. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Amendment.
Respected colleagues, my name is Solomon Bob. I'm from River State. I represent Ahoda East and Abua Odua Federal Constituency. This motion couldn't have been more timeless, and I fully support it for the reasons already adduced by the mover of the motion, and what was further added by our leader, minority leader. I recall last time that we had just about a week or two to consider a federal budget, and I was aghast. And I think just about everyone in this house who saw what happened felt the same way. And for some time, I felt that, I don't know, I wasn't listening very particularly to what the mover of the motion was saying. If you had a specific law regarding the time frame within which the executive must submit the proposal for a given year to the House. But in my view, the time is past now, but in my view, no budget consideration by this House should be entertained. The proposal came here before, later than September. We must have the full time to examine the details. The full time. In other parts of the world, the country can be brought to a halt on account of defaults in either in timely presentation or things seen in the budget that ought not to be there. Like the leader, my leader here just said, this is the most important bill, apart from the Constitution. Operation Act is the most important bill that this House will consider at any point in time. So we must not treat with levity. So, Mr. Speaker, I urge you and my colleagues to give this motion every weight it deserves. Henceforth, if they bring any budget consideration that doesn't give us enough time for proper job, for scrutiny, we should not consider it. We should throw it back at the face of the executive. And if needs be, let the country come to a point where everybody will understand that nothing can be done because the right thing has not been done. I thank you for this opportunity. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
When you talk of Physical Responsibility Act,
Go ahead and move your amendment.
yes, it's in line with what I'm going to say, sir. That it goes beyond the issue of economic planning. It is an issue of implementation, budget implementation. What I'm trying to say is that apart from the national economic planning, I'm calling for the inclusion of Ministry of Finance or Finance Committee. Thank you very much.
Which